Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punch
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Today is Friday, April 14th, 2023, coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. The double standard in the American justice system has been a problem for years. But guess what, y'all? A black man in Texas who was charged with a simple misdemeanor conviction is sentenced to 70 years in prison for spitting on cops. 70 years. And speaking of Texas, a white racist shoots and kills a white Black Lives Matter protester. Fox News' Tucker Carlson punks the governor of Texas to pardon the guy. Greg Abbott announces he's going to pardon him. And now we find out that this thug is an absolute racist, called black people monkeys, and made it clear, I am a racist. Way to go, Tucker and Greg. We'll talk with a Texas state representative about both of those cases. Also, an HBCU in Charlotte, North Carolina, folks, could very well face closure. We will talk to the president and the board chair with the Barbara Scotia College about what the difficulty they're facing, and we'll tell you more about it. And also, folks, U.S. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas palling around with billionaires. That billionaire buys his mama's house, fixes it up. Mama still lives there, but he says, I see nothing wrong. Yeah, you were supposed to disclose it, and you broke the law. We'll talk with L.E. Mistel, justice correspondent with The Nation, about that. Also in our Education Matters segment, we'll highlight an organization helping families prepare their children for college. It is time to bring the funk. The day before, Jackie Robinson Day, Major League Baseball on the Black Sun Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, roll, y'all. It's rolling Martin, yeah. Rolling with rolling now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's rolling Martin now.
All right, I'm going to tell you about two cases in Texas that show you how absolutely pathetic the justice system there is. A brother, a black man, has been sentenced to 70 years in prison for spitting at police officers while he was being arrested. Larry Pearson was arrested in May of last year for domestic violence after a female victim flagged down an officer in Northeast Lubbock and stated that Pearson punched her in the face several times. Now, according to police, Pearson was arrested and continued to kick and spit at the officers even after being detained at the Lubbock County Detention Center. Now, Pearson was convicted on 2 counts of harassing a public servant. Due to his prior convictions of aggravated robbery and continuous family violence, the minimum sentence he could receive would have been 25 years. But the prosecutor asked the jury to consider a sentence that would, quote, send a message to Pearson and society. His defense lawyer, Jim Shaw, argued to the jury that the harassment of a public servant was a single misdemeanor that got out of control. Okay, so that's that particular case. So now let's talk about this other case, okay, out of Texas as well. All right, white man on trial, he goes on trial for killing a Black Lives Matter protester. Daniel Perry, former Army sergeant, Uber driver, was convicted of killing Garrett Foster, a white Black Lives Matter protester. Now, jury goes to the jury finds him guilty. Now, newly released unsealed documents that were not allowed in the trial show Perry, who's convicted of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, talking about his intentions of actually harming protesters. He said on social media he was going to kill protesters and Muslims, expressed white supremacist views, said point blank, I'm a racist. Now, in reaction to the documents being released, Perry's legal team filed a motion seeking a new trial. Now, here's what's interesting. So the folks on the right took this as a cause célèbre. Tucker Carlson goes on Fox News and demands that Texas Governor Greg Abbott pardon him. Now, the governor of Texas doesn't have the pardon of power. He can recommend to the Pardon and Paroles Board. Well, Greg Abbott sent this tweet out. Show it, y'all, where he actually said, I'm seeking the pardon. We have a tweet? All right, we'll pull up and say, where he literally said, I'm going to pardon this guy. He said that Texas has a strong stand your ground law. That's what he said, a strong stand your ground law. And he was going to stand up for this guy. That's interesting, because he now, with the tweets go, now the information being released, now we discover that, matter of fact, here's the statement. Governor Greg Abbott, let's see here. Let me go ahead, show it to y'all. I have it on my iPad. Give me 1 second. I just want y'all to understand when the racists all stand together. Here it is. Texas has one of the strongest stand your ground laws of self-defense that cannot be nullified by a jury or a progressive district attorney. First of all, the jury can reject any. Let me say it again. A jury can actually reject the defense. It happens in Florida cases. He says, unlike the president or some other states, the Texas Constitution limits the governor's pardon authority to only act on a recommendation by the Board of Pardons and Paroles. Texas law does allow the governor to request the Board of Pardons and Paroles to determine if a person should be granted a pardon. I've made that request and instructed the board to expedite it. Okay, that's Greg Abbott. All right. No word from Greg Abbott or Tucker Carlson now that we know that Daniel Perry has said he was going to kill protesters. No word from any of them about Daniel Perry saying, oh, I'm a racist. No word from any of them with all the other comments that he made. Not a word. See, this is what happens when you jump on that bandwagon and you find out who you defending. Now it seems like they're trying to all run for cover. But see, we haven't forgotten how hardcore they jumped on this. And so I'm gonna do this here. I'm gonna go to a break. When I come back from the 2-minute break, I'm gonna talk to State Representative Jarvis Johnson of Texas about both of these cases to show you the insanity that we see. So they got no problem with the white prosecutor in Lubbock seeking more years and saying, and let me be real clear, I ain't defending no dude who lays his hands on a woman. But to add 45 years because he spit, that's BS. We'll talk about that and this murder case when we come back right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button. Don't forget, download our app. I told y'all Facebook is tripping. This is why we can't depend upon these other platforms. If y'all want to guarantee that you can see this show, download the Black Star Network app on all of your devices, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. You can also watch us on Amazon News. Just simply go to Amazon Fire, pull up Amazon News, pull up the Black Star Network 24-hour streaming channel. You can also tell Alexa, play news from Black Star Network. You can catch it as well. And also support us in what we do. Send your check and money orders to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered, PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered, Venmo is RM Unfiltered, Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. We'll be right back.
We feel the hidden impacts of climate change that land harder in Black, Brown, and Native communities.
Not many people talk about it because they clearly don't know our lives. But with President Biden's landmark infrastructure and climate plans, our issues are finally seen.
Removing lead pipes means we know our water is safe. Cutting carbon pollution helps our kids breathe easier. 1.5 million new jobs means stable work in communities. The impact we need.
Right now.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us.
We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in Black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hey, I'm Cupid, the maker of the Cupid Shuffle and the Wham Dance.
What's going on? This is Tobias Trevelyan. And if you're ready, you are listening to and you are watching Roland Martin unfiltered.
Okay, so I just want y'all to understand, here is white nationalist Tucker Carlson angry that Texas Governor Greg Abbott would not come on his show to discuss Daniel Perry. Watch this.
So you're not allowed to defend yourself against BLM rioters, even when they point a rifle at you. That's the lesson. But of course, that lesson is incompatible with justice. And so to his credit, the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, has announced that he will pardon Daniel Perry. It's a little more complicated in Texas. Perry is behind bars tonight, but the governor has instructed the Pardons Board to work on an expedited review. That's required by law in Texas in order for a pardon to occur. But he is pardoning this man. That is obviously the right thing to do. George Soros can't pay for people to put his political opponents in jail and then have a Republican governor ignore it. It's outrageous. But of course, Democrats think he should be convicted of murder because one of their voters got killed. Now, everyone involved in this was the same color, white. But of course, Greg Abbott is a racist for some reason for pardoning Perry. So you're not allowed
so here's
to
the deal.
defend
Come on. So here's the whole deal.
BLM riot.
Representative Jarvis Johnson of Texas joins us right now. So let's just deal with this. First of all, I'm native Texan. You're native Texan. First of all, anybody says there's no right to defend yourself in Texas is a flat-out fool and liar. We know that's just a lie.
Right on, right on. This ain't got nothing to do about Governor Abbott pardoning somebody because they are defending themselves. It's everything to do about somebody deciding to drive into a protest on purpose to instigate a situation to then say, oh, I was defending myself. It's all in his tweets. It's all on his social media. He planned this the entire time. And for Tucker Carlson to say, oh, he's a racist, ain't got nothing to do with racism. Ain't nothing to do with racism. It's the fact that they have chosen to ignore their own party's line of law and order. There's no law and order. It's if you are against what we believe in, then we're going to be against you. If you believe in what we believe in and you break the law, we're going to defend you. The fact that Governor Abbott has chosen to say, hey, we're going to pardon you because this means stand your ground. No, it doesn't mean stand your ground, because in Texas, as the vice chair of Homeland Security, I look at and hear bills every single day about Texans and their guns. And the fact is that they have chosen to say, when you wear a gun in Texas, it is not a threat. It is not a threat. It is no longer a threat if you have a gun on and you walk into any environment and you're having that gun. It's not a threat. So for this guy to say he saw someone with a gun that looked like a threat, that argument goes without.
Right. So the Black Lives Matter protester, he had, I think, an AK-47. He can do that.
Foster, the guy who got killed.
Yeah, Foster got killed. That's what he had. And here's the deal: Tucker's also a liar. The video's there in the from the police. Perry said that he did not point it at him. He said he shot him because he may have pointed it at him.
Right. Well, he saw somebody, that was his defense, because that's the whole stand your ground law, is that when you feel that your life is in jeopardy, you can say, oh, I felt like my life was in jeopardy. And he said it, and this is the thing, he prefaced it in his previous social media post that said, if someone ever approached me, all I have to do is say, I felt fear for my life, and therefore I decided to defend myself.
In fact, this is the video of him saying, this is the video where to the police interrogators, he literally said, I didn't want him, he said, I didn't want to give him a chance to aim it at me. Go play it.
Footage of Daniel Perry's police interview after he killed Garrett Foster was played in the courtroom during his murder trial. Former Austin Police homicide detective David Fugit was the one to conduct the interview with Perry. In it, Detective Fugit had Perry demonstrate how Foster carried his rifle.
How high did that barrel come up? We have power about right there. Okay, was it aimed at you? I believe he was aimed at me. I believe he was going to aim it at me. I didn't want to give him a chance to aim at me, you know?
And then what Perry did while he was sitting in the driver's seat.
That quick, yeah. It's like a thing in Russia. I don't want to get shot, so.
Perry said he shot 5 times. He believes the whole encounter was less than 15 seconds.
See right there, Jarvis. I didn't want to give him a chance to aim at me, which means he wasn't aiming at you. And in the video, he showed the guy was carrying a gun. It was pointed to the ground.
The whole point about open carry in Texas has become a fallacy to all of these people. They use it when they want to. And I say this over and over again. Laws apply to everybody. They're only applicable to some. And so at the end of the day, if you are someone who is carrying a gun to defend yourself, if you're someone who is carrying a gun for the rule of law and order, then, but if you are against someone who wants to be racist, then you're wrong. And so his whole notion is a fallacy, it's a lie, and this is where he's gotten. And so this is how we've gotten to this point to where now a governor who has all information at his fingertips chose still to say something that he said just to pander to his base, to say, we're going to pardon him. We're going to ignore the justice system. We're going to ignore the fact that a jury of his peers, now you and I both know what his peers are. A jury of his peers literally deliberated and said he's guilty. And they didn't even have the social media posts. They didn't even have all of this information that we are getting now, but yet the governor, who is the governor of Texas, has this information at his hand, still said what he said. Let me just say this. I got to say this, Ro, because at the end of the day, every time in this country something happens that happens to be racist, for some unknown and strange reason, Texas has to one-up it. We saw what happened in Tennessee. Oh, Texas has to then jump right on it and they have to do something more racist than somebody else. And so here we are. We're looking at the governor says, oh, we're going to pardon this guy. Although we don't even know the information, although the jury came back with this verdict, but we're going to pardon him. So forget the justice system. And now we see now we got this new guy, Brother Pearson, who is simply he spit at a cop. And now they're going to give them 7 years. They have to continue to push the envelope. They have to continue to push their narrative. They have to continue to push their racist ways. Because at the end of the day, the prosecutor said, we want to send a message. So my question is, Governor Abbott, what message are you sending to anybody who decides to take the law into their own hands? What message are you sending by simply saying, we're going to pardon you? We don't know all the information, although the jury, the judge, the prosecutor, and even the defense had all the information. We're still going to pardon you. They're sending a clear message. Oh, that's why in this state, the Texas Legislative Black Caucus is going to stand tall and stand strong. We're going to fight this to the very bitter end. And at the end of the day, bills that come on this floor, bills that belong to the governor, bills that belong to the Republican Party that continue to be racist, to continue to create this divide, we're going to make sure that we fight them and pop those bills every single day, because the governor is sending a clear message. We want to be the racist state in the country. We don't care. We don't care if Governor Ron DeSantis wants to do what he does, then okay, we're going to do one up on him up. So that's what they're doing, and that's unfortunate what we're having to deal with in this state every single day. We're having to fight bills, we're having to fight laws, and we're having to fight people that want to give a pass to the white supremacists, to give a pass to those that want to inflict pain and death upon people who are simply trying to live. And to have a voice. When you look at the people who chose to say, we're going to stand up for what is right, we're going to stand up for what is just, we're going to stand on the front line. And then you got people like Perry who decides to say, I don't like the fact you're standing on the front line. I don't like the fact that you're standing up for yourself, and we're going to kill you.
Oh, absolutely. Representative Jarvis Johnson, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Brother, I always appreciate you, man. Keep doing the good work you're doing. Keep sending the message out, because your message is strong.
Will do. Thanks a bunch. Appreciate it.
Thank you, brother.
Folks, my panel, Michael Imhotep, host of the African History Network show out of Detroit. Matt Manning, civil rights attorney out of Corpus Christi, Texas. Kelly Bethea, communication strategist based out of D.C. I'll go to you, Matt, first. Matt, so here's the deal. This is from the Texas Tribune. On May 29, 2020, after George Floyd's death, murdered by a Minneapolis police officer, prompted nationwide protests, Daniel Perry sent a text message saying, I might go to Dallas to shoot looters. 2 days later, according to records, Perry said in a Facebook message that when he is in Dallas, quote, no protesters go near me or my car. Can you catch me a Negro daddy? The other man replied. That is what I am hoping, Perry said. In June, Perry sent text messages from an unknown area detailing bars closing and said, the blacks gathering up in a group, I think something is about to happen. He also said, I wonder if they will let my cut the ears off of people who decided to commit suicide by me. Now, again, court records, all of this comes from Perry's phone records and social media accounts. The U.S. Army sergeant also sent racist and anti-Muslim messages before and after Floyd's death in April 2020. He sent a meme, which included a photo of a woman holding her child's head underwater in the bath with the text, when your daughter's first crush is a little Negro boy. A year later, he messaged someone on Facebook looking for weekend work for active duty military. Too bad we can't get paid for hunting Muslims in Europe. That's the person who Greg Abbott is trying to support, Matt. So share your thoughts about that and, of course, the ridiculous case out of Lubbock, Texas.
Dear Greg Abbott, we hate you. You're not going to get elected president no matter how many songs and dances you do to try to get the base. Here's the reality of it. Austin is my hometown. Greg Abbott has been locked in a war with Austin and Travis County for years, right? He's always talking about Democratic cities and the whole deal. This is a matter of Greg Abbott trying to, use a political opportunity that he thinks he has here in pardoning Perry. But one, he jumped out there way too early, because the way it works in Texas that people don't know, in Texas we have two aspects of our trials. So you have a guilt and innocence phase, and then you have the sentencing phase. So the reason all of that stuff didn't come in about him being racist and wanting to hunt Muslims and all the abhorrent stuff is because you don't want to put that in front of a jury and prejudice them in their decision of whether he's innocent or guilty. That being the case, for the governor to come out and say he wants to pardon this person on stand your ground is disgusting, particularly because of how often Republicans are talking about the rule of law and letting the rule of law stand. Here, a jury of 12 people in Travis County heard all the evidence, repudiated the stand your ground charge, because what that means, Roland, is when you're in a jury trial, at the end of the trial, the jury gets a very long document called a jury charge. And that jury charge gives them the law. And it says in the state of Texas, you are entitled to stand your ground if you're faced with deadly force, and you don't have a duty to retreat. That's what stand your ground means. However, if the jury does not believe you're faced with deadly force, then they can choose not to exonerate you or absolve you and find you not guilty on that basis. And that's precisely what happened in this case. So for Greg Abbott to immediately say he wants to pardon somebody at the behest of Tucker Carlson speaks more to Greg Abbott's insecurity and fear about his presidential chances than it does the actual, justice of it. Now, in the Larry Pearson case, two things are true at the same time in that case. The first thing that's true is in the state of Texas and in this country, we way over incarcerate people. We incarcerate people for too long. We're an over carceral society in a lot of respects. However, in this case, I think that people don't know the parole scheme, and I think that will put it into a better context. So the context here is Larry Pearson is what was called habitual felony offender in Texas. And if you know California's 3 strikes law, it's kind of like that. So what that means is specifically if you have gone to prison 2 times before or more, any subsequent felony you get accused of is automatically 25 to 99 or life. In Texas, we use ranges. So you don't get automatically, a specific year. The jury or the judge, depending on who you elect to sentence you, has in that range. So when you're a habitual felony offender, it's 25 to 99 or life. However, in the state of Texas, at life and at 60 years, in both instances, you're automatically eligible for parole at 30 years if it's a crime of a certain class. This crime does not fit into that class. So I did the calculations, and in reality, Larry Pearson is more than likely looking at about 8 years in prison before he's eligible for parole, which is, don't get me wrong, a very long time for spitting on a police officer. It's still definitely unjust, but it's not 70 years. Those are really statement verdicts. Those are verdicts that prosecutors ask for from juries to show that, you know, they think that the jury should send a message, as she said, but not because he's actually going to serve 70 years. In fact, it's more likely that he'll serve between 7 to 10 years, depending on if he makes parole on the first time. But notwithstanding all of that, it's still an overly carceral society, and it's one where 70 years for a black man, for any person, should really be seen as abhorrent, particularly in the context of somebody being convicted of murder by 12 citizens in the most liberal county in the state, with Lubbock being the exact opposite. You know that, being from Texas. Out in Lubbock, that's a hanging county. Travis County is not. So for 12 jurors to find him guilty of murder and to repudiate that self-defense charge, that means they walked through the evidence and they thought that was appropriate. And I think Greg Abbott is just trying to get political points at this point.
What you have here, Kelly, is you've got these white conservatives. I don't care if the two people involved are white. You got these white conservatives who hate Black Lives Matter protesters, whether they be black or white. And all this is just trying to appeal to that white conservative base and gun lovers. That's what Greg Abbott is doing.
Yes, because and I'm sure people know this, but you can be white and not be a white supremacist. And that is what the victim of this crime was. He was a white person who apparently was a white ally or accomplice to the plight of the Black Lives Matter movement. Now, the fact that Perry wants to pardon a bona fide racist for killing someone who's trying to do good, honestly, it just feels like typical Governor Perry. I mean, this is the same man who still stood 10 toes down and in his Second Amendment hoopla over children being killed. So the fact that he wants the devil out on the streets is no surprise to me. It is actually more of the same to me, that this man has no regard for human safety, for human life, and for human progression. Michael.
Yeah, Roland, you know, these are two both crazy cases. If we deal with the case of Daniel Perry, who shot and killed Garrett Foster, it looks like this was totally unjustified. Looks like the jury got it correct. And Governor Greg Abbott is a punk. Governor Greg Abbott is a coward. And he is bending over to little punk ass Tucker Carlson, okay, and it's believed that Governor Abbott wants to run for president. That's going to be a failed run. Number one, last president to serve in the White House from a wheelchair was Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and that was in a different time. That was in a time when you didn't have social media. Roosevelt couldn't even stand on his own without, you know, the help of other people, okay, but that was a different time. And he is tapping into the hatred that Fox News viewers and Donald Trump MAGA Republicans have for Black Lives Matter, and he knows he needs that base if he has any chance of getting the nomination. Okay, so hopefully, once again, this is an example of how elections have consequences when it comes to government. This is the power of a governor or influence of a governor. Secondly, with Larry Pearson, I'm glad that Matt was able to give context with this. I know that the minimum that Larry Pearson could get is 25 years in prison. It did seem like this was a prosecutor trying to be an activist at the same time and trying to get 70 years, which is just totally unrealistic. And I'm against abusing black women as well, regardless of who does it. I think it's even worse when a black man does it. But hopefully, he won't do anywhere near the 70 years. But this is a crazy case as well, coming out of Texas once again.
Well, we know what we're dealing with here, folks, and that is we're dealing with people who really want to have two ideas of a justice system. And so we'll see if Abbott keeps moving forward with this part, and especially with this new information that we now have. Got to go to a break. We come back. HBCU in North Carolina fighting for their survival. We'll explain exactly what is going on. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered right here on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shooting.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
We're all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Faraji Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network.
Hello, everyone. It's Kiara Sheard.
Hey, I'm Taj.
I'm Coco.
And I'm Lily. And we're SWV.
What's up, y'all? It's Ryan Destiny, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks, welcome back to Roland Martin Unfiltered right here on the Black Star Network. We often talk about HBCUs and their importance to this country. We've also seen where some have fallen on hard times. Some have closed their doors. There is a fight in North Carolina to ensure that does not happen to one institution that's been struggling to regain their accreditation for a number of years. Barbara Scotia College has been under a microscope since it lost its accreditation in 2004. The school has lost its tax exemption status and is battling with a Concord City Council, Concord, North Carolina, in terms of what to do with campus buildings that are in disrepair. Dr. Tracy Flemings is the Barbara Scotia College's interim president. She joins me from Florida. Roberta Pickney is the Barbara Scotia College Board of Trustees chair in South Carolina. Glad to have both of them here. So let me first start with you, Roberta. Can you hear me?
I can hear
Okay,
you.
all right. We're still trying to get Roberta's audio fixed, so I'll start with Tracy. So can you hear me?
Yes, indeed.
All right, cool.
Thank you for having us.
All right. So so you're going on. You're in your 19th year not having accreditation. Morris Brown is a perfect example. They went through a long period of time where they were able to regain their accreditation. And so, what is the status of that? And first of all, is the school still operational? How many students do you have? How many faculty do you have?
Yes, thank you. In 2004, we lost our accreditation. And of course, in 2016, we got as close as we had been in quite a while in reobtaining that accreditation through TRACS. We decided to pursue TRACS versus SACS for just various reasons. And we feel like we were better positioned and suited to pursue TRACS. We are eligible to reapply for our accreditation through TRACS, and we've got an accreditation team that's been working diligently in that process. We attended our orientation back in October to let the TRACS committee know that we're serious about obtaining our accreditation back. We are down to 4 students, and those 4 students will be graduating in June. So we have a push to try to bring and recruit additional students. Back in August, we tried to bring students to the campus. And in doing so, our City of Concord partners, liaisons, halted that process. So our goal is, if we can't bring students to the campus and educate, then, how can we survive and how can we continue to be a viable institution, which is what we're not understanding why our city consultants won't work with us there in the city of Concord, North Carolina. We've come a long way. The chairwoman and I have been in the seat now in interim positions, or I'm in interim. She's permanent for a year and 3 months, and we had asked, for people to be patient with us, let us get in, stabilize the school, and continue to move forward from there. So that's where we currently are. Okay, so you say they won't work with you. Now, the accreditation is one thing, and so let's deal with your tax-exempt status. You lost that. Well, we are being told that we have to justify not having students on our properties and the properties being utilized wholly and holistically for educational purposes. And they're looking for 2023 to start taxing us on those properties that have been untaxed for over 100 plus years. We do utilize the properties for educational purposes. As we all know, institutions like Strayer, Phoenix University, they started with no students on the campus. So having students on or off your campus does not necessarily justify your tax-exempt status as a 501c3 nonprofit institution. Also, we're continually trying to bring students to the campus, but we can't do that if city codes aren't going to approve our buildings and things of that sort and working with us to help us achieve that goal. Okay, so you're trying to gain your accreditation. First of all, you're going through that process. Now, when it comes to the tax-exempt status, okay, are you reapplying for that? Is that in review? And who is that? Who do you get that from? Is that the IRS? Is that the state? Is that the city? What we've received thus far is from the I'm sorry, Chairwoman.
Well, I think what's happening here, we need to understand, we're actually talking about property tax exemption, not our 501c3 charitable tax exemption. That's intact. There's no problem there at all. It's the property tax exemption that's being the issue with the county tax office. Okay. Our buildings and our properties.
Okay. All right. So, but again, whose decision is that? Is that the city or the state? And is there an appeals process? To our understanding, it's the county. There is an appeals process. We have submitted an appeal, and it now goes before the equalization board with the county. So we have submitted all information. They will give us a review date and determine at that point what our status would be. Part of that county review board is represented by the county tax assessor. Okay. All right. So now, what are you looking for from the public? Because, and again, there are people who are watching who are saying, you got 4 students and they're graduating. What are you having next year? What do you have an actual growing concern? And then the other question is, who owns the land? And so what is the city trying to take it over, trying to sell it? Okay, what's going on?
Well, as the board of trustees for the college, we own all properties. We have approximately 19 parcels of property, 17 buildings. Barbara Scotia College Board of Trustees own the property. And so therefore, we are the one that's being taxed by the county assessor. So we have full ownership of the property. Again, because of COVID and other instances, we've like Morris Brown, we've lost our accreditation over 20 years ago. So we, as new leadership, we are inspired to, seek accreditation, seek financial stability, which is the big issue for us. We need funds to build the infrastructure of Barbara Scotia College.
So I have to ask this question though. So let me do this here. I got to go to a break. I'm going to ask the question when we come back. And then my panel has some additional questions as well. So we'll continue coming back, discussing, talking about what's happening at Barbara Scotia College there in North Carolina, right here on the Black Star Network.
I lost my daughter. I didn't know where she was. So I had to figure out how to survive, how to eat, how to live. I don't want to go into the details because she's here, first of all. She may not want me telling that story. But possession of her, the family broke down, fell apart. I was homeless. I had to figure out, I didn't have a manager or an agent or anybody anymore, and I'm the talent. So I got to figure out how to be the agent. I had to figure out, how does business work?
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr. Dr. Kwasi Kanadu, author, scholar, and healer. He is one of the truly representative thinkers and activists of our generation.
I had a dream, a particular night, and when I woke up, several ancestors came to me, and they came to me and said, "We really like what you're doing, but you have to do more."
His writing provides a deep and unique dive into African history through the eyes of some of the interesting characters who have lived in it, including some in his own family. The multi-talented, always fascinating Dr. Kwasi Kanadu on the next Black Table here on the Black Star Network.
You want me to do something crazy, but I don't know what to do. I'd rather just sit here.
Hi, this is Cheryl Lee Ralph, and you are watching Roland Martin on
All right, we're talking with Dr. Tracy Flemings, the interim president of Barbara Scotia College, as well as talking with the board chair, Roberta Hugh Pickney, as well. All right, so let me just ask this question here. So when we went to the break, you talked about needing support, financial support to repair buildings. So here's a question. But what is there to support? You have 4 students. If people in the audience are saying, hey, they want to support HBCUs, they likely are saying they're going to support something that is sustainable. And so how do you make the argument that you're actually a viable, growing concern when you literally have only 4 students? And you lost accreditation in 2004. This is 19 years later. And you're going through this. So, and again, what's the assessment? Buildings in disrepair. What is it going to cost to bring the buildings up to code where they're able to be used?
Well, first and foremost, that's a great question. What we're trying to do is continue to recruit. It is no secret that students thrive at places where it looks like them. I am a graduate of Barbara Scotia College. The chairwoman is a graduate of Barbara Scotia College. My parents sent 4 of my 8 to 10 siblings there, and we know what it does for us long term. Kids of today, they're not thriving at PWIs. They're going to thrive at a historical Black college institution. All of our buildings are not in disrepair, as you saw. We do have buildings that are viable that we do utilize today.
Okay, so how many? So you have 19 buildings, right?
Yes, sir.
How many are in disrepair?
We have 4 buildings that are in disrepair.
What is going to be the cost to bring those up to standard?
Estimate we've gotten is about $30 million.
Okay, so again, I just need somebody to explain this. It's going to cost $30 million to bring them up to standard. You got 4 students. Who's going to give $30 million to fix buildings when you got 4 students, when right now, literally, people are going to school without buildings. So what exactly are we trying to save?
First and foremost, our legacy. And our Board of Trustees worked very diligently with what this campus is and need to look like. We don't need all of these buildings, first and foremost, just like you said. Online has changed the whole scope of everything. So we're not looking to rehab every last one of these buildings, first and foremost. Secondly, we've incorporated some certification programs. When you're asking, what's in it for a student? Loss of accreditation only means that, we've lost that financial arm. Degrees are still degrees as long as there's a state of North Carolina.
But you can't, but when you lose accreditation, students can't receive federal financial aid.
That's correct.
And we know that 90% of HBCUs are dependent on the financial aid of students. And how much is tuition on an annual basis to the university?
We have $1,500 to our students. We're looking for commuter students so that we can help offset our expenses from living and providing meals and things of that sort. So we can start with our commuter community, and that's what we're trying to do.
So I'm going back to, and again, follow me here, because look, I ran the Chicago Defender, and the paper lost money for 20 straight years. And we were in a building, and people were like, we got to save the building. To fix the building would have cost $10 million. The entire company wasn't worth $10 million. So, Roberta, I have to ask this question. If you're going to raise $30 million, if you need $30 million to fix buildings, does it make sense to raise buildings and try to use the $30 million for other purposes, but versus trying to save the building? I mean, I'm just trying to get at what are we actually trying to save? So when I was in Chicago, what I said to the people were, I said, do y'all want to save the building or do y'all want to save the paper? Because the paper can go on, not in this building, and that's exactly what happened. And so what is it that you're trying to preserve and rebuild? Because, again, as people are listening to this right now going, you got 4 students. What is being rebuilt?
Correct. Well, I mean, I hear your concern, and I understand it exactly. Because again, I mean, that's the reality of the situation. I can only tell you, Roland, that, we feel that, and I say we, Board of Trustees and the alumni, we have an opportunity to make Barbara Scotia anything it needs to be. It's a diamond in the rough right now. There are opportunities out there. Barbara Scotia is not going to be what it was when I was there in the 60s, but it can still be a viable institution that would, continue to educate and train the future generation and the workforce for tomorrow. We've talked with developers. We are interested in looking at our land value, looking at probably either selling land or leasing, ground leasing, those kinds of things. We're in those kinds of discussion. Yes, we have buildings, and we're not, I would say, basically tied to all of those buildings, but we do feel that we have, someone said that we are buildings rich and cash poor, and that's pretty much what it is. But we would like to be able to get an infusion of cash to help us with our daily operations, which would help us to build our infrastructure and continue to fundraise for scholarships for students that we do.
But again, and I'm not trying to sound pessimistic, but I have to ask it.
Yes.
What is someone's cash infusion going to? I mean, that's, again, here's the deal. You're in North Carolina where there are more HBCUs than anywhere else. And if somebody has $1 million, Okay, let's say there's somebody sitting out there and they say, I got $1 million. If they're deciding where I'm going to send my $1 million to, they're sitting here looking at St. Augustine's, they're looking at Winston-Salem, they're looking at your private and your public institutions. And so the gale force winds you're sort of walking into are difficult. So what exactly would they be investing in, and what is that plan? So for graduating, okay, what's your target next year? Do you plan to have 100 students? What are you looking? What does this roadmap look like that somebody would be investing in?
Okay.
Correct.
Dr. Fleming, you want to respond?
Well, as far as the recruitment path, we're looking to try to build to 25 students and then continue to evolve from there. Just pre-COVID, we were up to 64 students. Our goal is to continue to get back to that platform through some of our certification programs, through people believing in what we're trying to accomplish through our business entrepreneurship program, through our religion program, through our solar and renewable energy programs. That's why we're partnering from a certification standpoint to get those programs going, let their students become the pipeline for our recruitment portals so that we can continue to increase that enrollment process.
Board Chair Roberta, go ahead.
Yes. Well, and some folks talk about nostalgia and all of that, but I think we feel as Board of Trustees that we have to protect our assets and use our assets wisely. And we feel that if there are folks out there could see the value in resurrecting this small HBCU that once put out folks like Mary McLeod Bethune and others, to me, it's a travesty to have this school to close. So I tend to look at it from the standpoint of hoping that there are, I guess, history-minded folks out there that could see the diamond in the rough and invest in making Barber Scotia become all it can be. That may sound like a pie in the sky, but that's what I believe, and that's what the alumni we believe. 2 years ago, we were $12 million in debt. We were blessed to have that debt forgiven. Our total debt right now is under $2 million, but we don't have the student population to act as a revenue source for us. Right now, it's the alumni that's basically funding, our day-to-day operations. And because the buildings are open, some of our buildings are open, we still have expenses.
Okay.
So, again, it's our goal to hope that there are other folks out there that would want to see this HBCU revive and thriving.
All right. Well, certainly keep us abreast of what happens in terms of in the future. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Appreciate it.
All right. Got to go to a break. We'll be back right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
On the next Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, have you ever had that $1 million idea and wondered how you could make it a reality? On the next Get Wealthy, you're going to meet Liska Askalise, the inventress, someone who made her own idea a reality and now is showing others how they can do it too.
Positive, focusing in on the thing that you want to do, writing it down, and not speaking to naysayers or anybody about your product until you've taken some steps to at least execute.
Leska Ask Elise on the next Get Wealthy, right here, only on Black Star Network.
Hey, I'm Deion Cole from Blackish.
Hey, I'm Arnez J. Black TV does matter, dang it.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's your boy Jacob Lattimore, and you're now watching Roland Martin right now.
Stay woke.
All right, folks, welcome back. My panelists, go to them. I'm going to start with you, Michael. I understand supporting guys, kill the music. I understand supporting HBCUs. I understand saving HBCUs. But this is, I'm still trying to understand, though, if someone is going to give a cash infusion, they're giving to, there has to be a there.
Yeah. Roland, let me start out by saying this. First off, my heart goes out to these two sisters, Roberta Pickney and Dr. Tracy Flemings. And I really feel that what we are seeing is the essence of Black women not wanting to give up on Black people. And that's why they're so committed, okay? So my heart goes out to them. But as somebody with a degree in business, we got to deal with the reality of the finances. And if you're trying to raise $30 million and you have 4 students and they have, according to this article here I'm looking at from WSOC TV, 9 students enrolled online, to me, I would ask the question, have you thought about going 100% online? Because you got more students online than, I guess, traditionally enrolled, one. And you can save a lot of money. Maybe you can sell off some of those buildings and go 100% online and buy one building and operate out of there. And 2, have you looked at, because you have such a great legacy, have you looked at trying to merge with other HBCUs, merge with other colleges to salvage your legacy and continue in a different form? Just because something, an institution or business has existed for 100 years does not mean it's going to continue in that same format. Things transform, things change, things evolve. So, brother, we have to understand how to become innovative. And the analogy that you gave with Chicago Defender is an excellent analogy, you know, and I kind of understand somewhat something like that, because when I used to manage a Radio Shack, you know, they owned the building, okay, in Fort Worth, Texas, and they got to the point where they had to sell the building to bring in revenue and rent space out of the building that they used to own to be able to survive longer. So things like this happen in business, but we have to be able to disassociate emotions and feelings and be able to make financial decisions.
It really is. It was hard having to ask those questions, Kelly. You're a graduate of Bowie State, and the reality is, private HBCUs have. I mean, we already know public HBCUs have troubles, but private HBCUs, you know, 10 times more trouble. And I do believe, and I'm telling you, that was, look, I had people who were protesting me in Chicago. There were people who were, how dare this dude come in from Texas and he's trying to sit here and move the defender. And I said, y'all, we have lost money for 20 consecutive years. The Michigan Chronicle was funding the Tri-State Defender, the Pittsburgh Courier, and the Chicago Defender. It was. That's how the company was still in business. So I come in, we lose money my first year, we make a $100,000 profit my second year, we make a $400,000 profit my third year, and I left because, frankly, the Black millionaire owners who bought it out of Detroit, they didn't know what the hell they were doing with a media company, and they told me they just wanted to remain a small community paper when I was trying to actually turn it into a national media company that was worth millions. But people were in Chicago where they were wedded to the building because they grew up on the building. And I have this same viewpoint when I hear people protesting school closures. People talk about the building, and I keep saying, y'all, it ain't the building. You can save the building, but then have nothing else. And so I still am just curious again. And look, Morris Brown is fought through all of that. Their alumni stayed with them. The problem that this college has, they've revoked that tax exemption on a property. And so now, if you appeal and you lose, the question now is, what do you do? And to me, this is just me, and again, I'm not looking at all of the data, but I'll be saying, yes, let me sell it to a black developer or someone along those lines, take the proceeds from that, and yes, move the college elsewhere and still keep the college going. But I just think that for a lot of us, we're wedded to the history of the building, the land, and I get all of that, but at the end of the day, you still you gotta survive.
It is twofold, right? I understand where these women are coming from, and I also understand where you're coming from, because you're very pragmatic, you're very practical, you're very linear thinking, which is necessary in business. And honestly, that is what education, higher education is. It is a business, right? And this business isn't failing, it has failed. So I understand your approach in not being attached to a building and trying to find ways to survive and thrive in other facets so that you can still be a business, right? On the other hand, I understand where these women are come from, because it's not just a building, right? Yes, there's nostalgia tied to it, but at the end of the day, with the history of how Black people had to acquire land and keep land, specifically in the South, that is a feat. That was a miracle. And I understand these women trying to keep their miracle. What I heard in this interview wasn't just, a plea. I heard a lack of a story, and I heard a lot of desperation. And you can't have that in business, right? So, just as advice, I would advise them to have a storytelling brainstorm as to the rationale necessary to convince people to keep what they have, because it is heartbreaking for a school to fail. It is even more heartbreaking for an HBCU to fail, because we know how hard and how long it took historically to get to that point. But at the end of the day, I did not hear what the impact of Barbara Scotia was to the community. I did not hear anything about the history of Barbara Scotia, save for a name plug of Mary McLeod Bethune. But we don't know anything about this college. And at the end of the day, what I heard was that you only have 4 students. That is the story that's being told, that you only have 4 students. What's not being told is the history and the impact of this university college within the community, and why it actually needs to stay. So I encourage them to actually tell a story that entices investors to come to them, so they don't have to go to them. They recruit investors more than they recruit students, and they'll get the money.
Let me just say this here, Matt, and again, and I have always been supportive of HBCUs. And we've seen other HBCUs close their doors. And I would say this, and again, look, folks reached out to me. I got emails from people, and they're like, hey, the city is trying to take this land from the school. And absolutely, I'm all about how do we protect land, but not just how do we protect it. The reality is this here. If, let's say I had 50 acres in my family, and I just simply could not keep paying the taxes on that. Well, one thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to go find somebody Black to sell the land to. That's what I'm gonna do. I want to keep it in the family, but if I've exhausted everything, then this is what I have to do. And what I'm looking at here is, and again, I totally understand people in terms of, again, buildings, property. Listen, Jack Yates High School, I'll be back April 28th, giving out my 2 scholarships. I remember when they were building a new building, I had alumni across the country, Roland, we got to fight for the building. I'm like, no, I'm not fighting for that building. They were like, they tearing it down. I was like, yeah, they should tear it down. I said, listen, I know you went there and you would love to go back and walk the halls when you walk there. I said, but the building was built for 4,000 students. They don't even have 1,000. I said, they got asbestos. They can't even use high-speed internet in the building because the building is too old. I said, you're fighting for a building when Roland is trying to fight to save the school. And when I say save the school, guess what? The building may be different ones. The Chicago Defender original location ain't the one it's in now. The New York Times original location is not the one they actually are in now, but the New York Times still exists. And so for me, again, I get buildings, I get land, but I want our institutions to continue to survive, and our institutions may not survive looking like they look now, but if the institution is still there serving the needs of students in a different capacity, then that's what we're actually fighting for. Your thoughts?
I don't disagree, Roland. My thoughts are really kind of an amalgam of everyone's thoughts in this respect, insofar as, look, I walked the hallowed halls of Howard, and I was blessed to get my degree there, and I understand I would fight for Douglas Hall and, Childress Hall, or now I guess the Chadwick Boseman Fine Arts, School of Fine Arts. But look, here's the reality. A couple things. First, the story that's not being told is how 19 years have gone by where there hasn't been some kind of remedial action, and I think that's important. I don't know if Barbara Scotia was never able to get up on its feet and never able to entice those students to come back, but I think that's one of the things that would disincentivize investment, because people will say you got 2 decades and clearly there has not been an improvement. But beyond that, the thing that I think Michael hit the nail on the head is, as it relates to innovation, one of the things I read about this university or this college is that it's very closely affiliated to the Presbyterian Church. So obviously you get tax abatements if you are affiliated with the church and have religious services. So my question is, what other realms have they explored, to use your term, exhaustion? I mean, if they're tied to the Presbyterian Church, it stands to reason there could be religious services on campus which would absolve them of that tax debt. Beyond that, there also seems like if you've got 19 buildings, then perhaps they could be put in trust and they could be lent out to other institutions or otherwise house other things beyond Barbara Scotia students and have, a profit turned or have some benefit. So, it seems like, unfortunately, the university may be at the point of unsustainability, but I would be interested in, have they truly exhausted all of the possibilities? But the caveat to all of that is this. If you notice a lot of the story about this college, they have also been done poorly by the city of Concord. In fact, it's my understanding that the city had a partnership with them to fix a number of these buildings, did not try to collect on its bill for 7 or 8 years, and then tried to hit them with a note that was due in 30 days. So some of this may be racism. Some of it may be institutional oppression. Some of it may be poor relations between the college and the local city. Yep. But the larger story is, to your point, when you have 4 students, it makes it very difficult to incite people investing at all, let alone a substantial sum like $30 million.
Indeed. All right, folks, hold tight when we come back. Lord Clarence Thomas, y'all. He keeps saying, I did nothing wrong. I taken $500,000 in free trips. What's the big deal? That Republican billionaire who took them trips with, we now know that he bought Clarence Thomas's mama's house. She still lived there. Clarence, you got something to say, bro? We'll talk to Ellie Mistel of The Nation next on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. You two folks, hit that like button so we can cross 1,000 likes. Let's get to 2,000 today, y'all. Y'all see y'all commenting. Let's hit that button. Also, y'all, please support us. Send your check and money orders to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. We'll be right back.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr. We look at the history of emancipation around the world. including right here in the United States, the so-called end of slavery. Trust me, it's a history lesson that bears no resemblance to what you learned in school. Professor Chris Manjapra, author, scholar, amazing teacher, joins us to talk about his latest book, Black Ghost of Empire, The Death of Slavery and the Failure of Emancipation. He explains why the end of slavery was no end at all, but instead a collection of laws and policies designed to preserve the status quo of racial oppression.
The real problem is that the problems that slavery invented have continued over time. And what reparations are really about is saying, how do we really transform society, right? And stop racial violence, which is so endemic.
What we need to do about it on the next installment of The Black Table, right here on the Black Star Network.
On the next A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie. It's spring, hallelujah. But hold on, it's not all fun and games. With the sun and the warmth comes the need to clean, the clutter, mentally, physically, emotionally, socially, all of those things need to happen. Getting rid of the clutter and clearing the cobwebs in our head and in our home. That's next on A Balanced Life on Black Star Network.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Godfrey, the funniest dude on the planet.
Hi, I'm Israel Houghton. Apparently, the other message I did was not fun enough. So this is fun. You are watching
Roland Martin, my man, Unfiltered.
All right, y'all. So when the folks at ProPublica dropped the story about Clarence Thomas taking all of these expensive vacations with the billionaire Harlan Crow, ooh, the conservatives, they all ran and, oh, nothing wrong with this. That's just a good friend of his. Now go to my iPad. Then they came back with another story that showed Harlan Crow bought a number of lots in Savannah, Georgia, including the one where Clarence Thomas's mama lives. Fixed the joint up. Oh, by the way, she didn't move. She still lived there. Ellie Mistel is with the Nation Joneses right now. Ellie, glad to have you here. Man, so Clarence Thomas, 20 years ago, the LA Times did a big story talking about how he was taking these gifts and how he was supposed to disclose them. His way of answering that was to stop disclosing stuff at all. It's a lot of things that he has not disclosed. Okay, for folks who don't know, let's just be clear. There's little oversight of the Supreme Court. What are Supreme Court justices supposed to be disclosing to the public?
One of the only oversights we have over the Supreme Court is the public disclosure law. It's at 5 U.S.C. 13104 that lists all of the things that judges and justices, explicitly including the Supreme Court justices, have to disclose on their financial disclosure forms every year to stop exactly this kind of public corruption, right? Now, there was some arguments that I thought were poor arguments, but arguments nonetheless, that Thomas didn't have to disclose the $500,000 of trips and vacations and resort stays that he got from Harlan Crow because they were a matter of allegedly personal hospitality. I thought that was a bogus legal argument, but it was a legal argument. Disclosing land deals is cut and dry, all right? There's no argument that Thomas did not or should not have had to disclose this man buying his mother's house, fixing his mother's house up, and having his mother stay in that house. Harlan Crow is now essentially Clarence Thomas's mother's, who's still alive, God bless, is apparently her landlord, which obviously has to be disclosed under the law. So the argument that any argument that people had that Thomas was within the letter, if not the spirit of the law, that has been blown out of the water by this house buying story.
And then they've said that, but Harlan doesn't have any business before the Supreme Court, so this is no big deal. You respond?
Yeah, that's completely ridiculous. Harlan Crow is a rich Republican donor. Of course, he has interest in what comes before the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court, folks, touches everything, right? So if you have an interest in tax law, you have an interest in front of the Supreme Court. If you have the interest in the Interstate Commerce Clause, which is how the federal government is allowed to regulate businesses, you have an interest in front of the Supreme Court. But that's not all. As one of your pictures just showed, Roland, Harlan Crow wasn't just a personal bromance, all right, between Harlan and Clarence. Harlan Crow was consistently bringing other powerful, wealthy, connected Republicans to hang out with Justice Thomas at these trips during these events. All of them had various businesses before the Supreme Court and various interests in what the Supreme Court does, right? So the argument that Harlan Crow and his powerful Republican buddies, they didn't really care what Thomas was talking about, that's bunk. That does not hold any water.
And see, the thing that cracks me up about this whole thing is this idea that, we're just friends. When did y'all become friends? After your ass was on the Supreme Court.
One of the dumbest parts of this is that Thomas released a statement, so far the only thing that he's said about this, saying that he and Harlan Crow have been dear friends for over 25 years, which is interesting because Clarence Thomas has been on the court for over 30 years. All right. And so obviously, whatever friendship they might have now, whether it's genuine or not, I don't know. I don't know the man. They don't invite me to Indonesia with them. Right. But whatever relationship they have now, it started with access to power. It started while Clarence Thomas was on the Supreme Court. Right. And again, I go back to the mother's land deal. That is not a thing that people do. Right. People do not have their rich friends buy their mother's abodes. And certainly if they do and they're a public official, they must disclose that at a bare minimum. Roland, it's there beyond the legal stuff, right? There's some black stuff going on here too, right? Because what kind of person has their mother living in a house with a leaky roof? With that needs repairs, that needs updates. When Clarence Thomas is rich, he's a Supreme Court justice, he's gallivanting around the country with his wife, and his mama has a leaky roof? Like what? Who does that? Who does that?
And,
right?
And for people, again, but people have to understand, these are the 9 most powerful people in the world. They are appointed for life. When they render decisions, that is it. That's the decision. That's the law of the land. They are supposed to be above reproach. There is no doubt that what Clarence Thomas is doing is shameful, it is foul, it is wrong. The problem I have is this attitude of Congress, just let them police themselves. Hell no. Of all people who should be subjected to rigorous examination, it's the Supreme Court.
And that's where we start to have our problems, right? Like there is no statutory ethical guidelines that govern the Supreme Court. So literally, if you were on the DC Circuit Court of Appeals, which is like the second highest court in the land, or a traffic court in Peoria, Illinois, you have a statutory guidelines that you must follow. Those guidelines, for the most part, do not apply to the Supreme Court. There has been movement. Congressman Hank Johnson from Georgia, he has been pushing for ethical requirements for the Supreme Court, but he can't get Republicans, and he frankly can't get a lot of Democrats to support him in this effort. He actually has a bill that he's proposed. I think the co-sponsor is Senator Chris Murphy from Connecticut, for ethical strictures for the Supreme Court. It can't go anywhere, right? And so we are left with this situation that because I believe Thomas did violate 5 U.S.C. 131.04, he could be investigated by the Department of Justice if Merrick Garland, is awake today. I don't know. But even if he is investigated, charged, tried, convicted, the only way to remove a Supreme Court justice from power is through the constitutional mechanism of impeachment. So exactly what we just went through with Donald Trump twice is what we would have to go through with Clarence Thomas. The only way to get a Supreme Court justice off the bench after they've been appointed for life is through constitutional impeachment. And because Kevin McCarthy, Jim Jordan, Marjorie, 3 names, that feels very unlikely to happen.
Matt Manning, you're an attorney. Matt, there are rules and there are rules. And if you're a Supreme Court justice, I am not buying this BS from Clarence Thomas. Oh, yeah, we're just buddies. I don't have to disclose these things. Bro, you took $500,000 in free trips. They've been funneling money to your wife's organization. Now we know they bought your mama's house and fixed it up, and she ain't moved.
Can y'all put that picture back up with him with the cigar, please? Can I please see that picture one more time? Okay, this is what happens, Roland, when you think you can do what white dudes do and you're not a white dude. Let's keep it straight up. That's what it is with Clarence Thomas. First off, it's grimy that your mama's living in a house with a leaky roof. You know $500,000 you have to absolutely declare, right? That's a lot of money. You absolutely need to declare it, notwithstanding any arguments that it's, quote, personal hospitalities. The problem is the Supreme Court, there's absolutely no strictures, as Ellie said brilliantly, no strictures whatsoever on the Supreme Court. And in fact, federal judges even below that, it's impossible to remove a federal judge outside of impeachment, which emboldens, unfortunately, somebody who is inclined to do something unethical, i.e. receive the money. Here's the problem with this, though. He can receive it. He just has to declare it. But the problem with declaring it is you can't hook the homies up if everybody knows about the homie hookup, right? So that's the problem here. He didn't disclose it because he knows he can't then make the decisions that are advantageous to cronies, people like Crow and anyone else that may be, a friend ideologically or a friend literally. So this is obvious. It's clear as day. I don't think there's any argument for it. But I think it does belie a larger conversation about accountability on the Supreme Court and on the federal judges. And on top of all of that, I would also say that as it relates to Clarence Thomas, the people who are saying, just let him do it, that's because we know they're all doing that kind of thing, right? We know that donors are buying dinners and lunches and trips, and that Congress and politics are replete with that. So I think some of the lackadaisical reproach is a self-preservation method, right? I don't want to get caught up, so I'm not going to call him foul for this very obviously foul and unethical thing that he's done.
Michael.
Well, Roland, and thanks for having Ali Mustal on. I watch him all the time and read some of his articles. It's even worse than what we think it is, because if you read this article from ProPublica, it says the Crow Company, which is owned by Harlan Crow, bought properties for $133,000 from 3 co-owners: Clarence Thomas himself, his mother, and the family of Clarence Thomas' late brother, according to a state tax document. But also, they are, in addition to putting in tens of thousands of dollars into repairs on the home that Clarence Thomas's mother lives in, Harlan Crow's company is paying the $1,500 a year in property taxes that Clarence Thomas' the home that Clarence Thomas' mother lives in. So Thomas got money directly from this sale also. It's not just his mama living in the house. He got money directly from this sale as well. So for all you conservatives out there, including the Negro conservatives who try to brush this off, I would ask you the question. If everything was the same except 2 names were changed, if it was George Soros instead of Harlan Crow, if it was Tanya Brown Jackson instead of Clarence Justice Thomas, what would you say then? So, I know you have Democratic senators calling for an investigation, but this is one of the reasons why elections have consequences. Elections are so important. This is why the presidency is so important, but also the Senate, because the Senate confirms Supreme Court justices. So we have to understand how all this comes together and keep these Republicans out of power.
Kelly?
It is always interesting to me whatever Clarence Thomas does, because for years, I always thought of him as a token, as a puppet. And now we have proof that he's a token and a puppet. I mean, you look at the picture of him with the cigar. I mean, he literally looks like the fly in Milk in the anecdote that we talk about when you are the only one in the room. And now we see how he even got in the room in the first place, because they needed a puppet. So I am curious to see how all of this plays out. I echo the sentiments of Matt and Michael, but nothing surprises me anymore when it comes to the cronyism and the under the table deals and how that translates into the laws that are coming down from the Supreme Court now. I am disgusted, but I'm not surprised.
Final comment, Ellie. I still crack up how they said, the left, they're attacking Clarence Thomas. Michael's point is a good one. Yeah, if this was Soros and Elaine Kagan, trust me, they would not be so dismissive.
Oh, if this was Ketanji Brown Jackson, there'll be hearings tomorrow on this stuff. Yep. I want to leave your viewers and listeners with this. This June, the Supreme Court is going to overturn affirmative action. Most likely, they will have their token, Clarence Thomas, write that opinion overturning affirmative action. And when Clarence Thomas does, he is going to say a lot of words about merit and how people should get where they are on their own bootstraps, and how Black people don't need any help. And it's demeaning for Black people to get extra help. Remember this day, remember this scandal when he's saying that, because that is the real kind of crucible that we are dealing with right now. This man is about to take away affirmative action, and when it turns out all this time he has been helped by rich white folks. That's the takeaway from this scandal.
All right, Ellie Mister, we appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot for having me.
All right, folks, we'll be back on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. We've got Education Matters and Justin Jones and Justin Pearson. Boy, they weren't even back in the Capitol 24 hours before they were slaying them racists in the Tennessee House. We'll show you a little bit of that as well. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shooting.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate Black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
We're all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Faraji Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network.
Hey, yo, Peace World, what's going on? It's the Love King of R&B, Raheem Devon.
Hey, I'm Cupid, the maker of the Cupid Shuffle and the Wham Dance.
What's going on? This is Tobias Trevelyan. And if you're ready, you are listening to and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks, gonna be graduating from high school. The question is your student ready for the next phase? Folks, our next guest deal with that. The collegiate hustle begins preparing families for the college experience as early as middle school and helps folks until the students actually graduate from college. Bridget Lewis is the CEO of the Collegiate Hustle. She joins us from Baltimore. All right, so Bridget, where did this idea of the Collegiate Hustle start? Where did it come from?
So I have been working in the education system for over 10 years, and a lot of parents, specifically with the middle class parents, minority parents also, really don't know how to navigate the college application process. There is always funding for low income families and, of course, the upper class families. But what happens to the middle class? So I basically gathered research within a 2-year period right when COVID started to kind of get an assessment of what do families need help with the most. And the overwhelming answer was transition to college and help getting there. So out of that was birthed the Collegiate Hustle.
But here's the other thing. We talk about the collegiate hustle. It's not just the application process. It's everything else goes along with it because you can be accepted, but now you got to deal with the housing situation. Now you got to deal with the transportation piece, all of that. And people have to understand there still are a lot of first generation college students. And if you don't have any experience in navigating that stuff, you have no idea how crazy it is.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that I think is misleading with the education system is that everyone who gets to go to college, especially if you're a minority student, you don't have any money. A lot of the families that I work with, they do make a lot of money, and therefore there's not a lot of funding to assist them with getting into college and staying there, more importantly. And since COVID, the mental health realm is easily impacting our students for staying into college and actually finishing, because now not only are they not really prepared for that transition of when they go, but more and more I'm finding out that in the middle school, it's not really even talked about. So I took 3 years within my own personal career to go back to the middle school to kind of do my due diligence and see what is going on in the middle school level. When is college being even introduced to them? And it wasn't. And a lot of that is preparation from the school community, from administration, and of course, the counselors themselves.
The next generation, when you have folks who understand the process, it's a hell of a lot easier. I've got 9 nieces, 4 nephews. They benefit from the fact that my brother, myself, my sister, my wife, my sister's husband, all of us are college graduates. We know the ins and outs, we know the games, we know all the different deadlines and stuff, and so we can walk them through. And yes, starting them, we were dealing with them in elementary school. Let me be real clear. What your little ass doing in the 4th and 5th grade was going to show up when you're a senior. And a lot of people, again, don't understand really how these things impact you, how what you do in the 6th, 7th, 8th grade will impact when it's time for you to graduate.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I know specifically for the school district that I work in, they are starting that conversation of how students can get better prepared. So we have what's called the 6-year plan. And through that process, counselors are starting to talk. But what isn't talked about is the financial piece. So a lot of the students will say, my parents told me I need to get a scholarship. I have to get a scholarship. Okay, but how?
Right.
What is the process for that? What do you do to prepare for that? And that is where I branched off and took a step back. And I'm also very much getting feedback from my former students of how could I have assisted you better? What did you need from me to assist you? And a lot of them came back and said, well, no one talked to my family about how we're going to pay for it even after the scholarships are applied. And part of that, I think a lot of it within the education system is, okay, you're middle class, you'll figure it out. No. Like, the same amount of time that is taken for low-income families to get Upward Bound program, or even, I know, the College Bound Foundation in Baltimore City, they take the time to teach their students. What about the other districts that have more middle-class families? What are we doing to support those families in finding the aid? And you're right, a lot of our middle-class families in the counties are well educated. They know how to get in, but they don't know how to pay for it. So I want to take that opportunity to start teaching in the middle school level families, what do we need to do? How do we put away money to make sure that your child is secure financially? What about living expenses if your college tuition is covered? What about day-to-day living? Those things aren't talked about, and that's something I want to change.
Yep, absolutely. Questions of my panel real quick. Kelly, you first.
Sure. So first and foremost, I think this is a phenomenal idea and initiative that you're doing. Is there any other information besides the financial bit that you're sharing with your families? And also, let's just say, this is middle class, so they are aware of college. Let's just say you have a kid out there who already has a dream school. Do you get information regarding that specific school that you disseminate? Is there anything, like, what other information do you share, can you share?
So I pride with my company doing everything individual based. Like, I'd rather have sit down with the family individually and see what their needs are. So for some families, it might be, okay, I need additional help with even applying, or I need additional help. Okay, my child got in, but I don't understand this financial aid letter. Let's sit down and let's talk about it. And a lot for my particular population, the FAFSA process is huge. Getting through to families that, yes, you do have to give the government information. No, they are not going to misuse it. This is going to benefit your child. So that is the most questions I get revolving around FAFSA or the financial aid process, but it does depend on what each family needs.
Matt.
So I just want to thank you. This is me exactly. My parents are college educated, met in college, but by the time I applied, there were so many new things about the process that they had to relearn a lot of that. So kind of my question is twofold. The first part is, what, if any, do you advise as it relates to 529 plans or tomorrow funds, as some states have them, for people who are in the middle class and may not qualify for some of the other grants and loans? And then the second thing is, do you have a holistic kind of sequence that you help families walk through in terms of applying for the PSAT and dual credit versus AP and all the different things that may help optimize their college experience?
Okay, so to answer your first question, the 529 plans, I am starting to learn more information about that myself. So I am not vast in that, but I do have partners where I reach out to them or refer families to them about when to start the 529 and how beneficial it is for their family. Because again, I do think each family has an individual need and individual situation where it could benefit for having the 529. However, I do press upon my high school families to have some type of backup plan for savings. And this is unexpected costs. And I think a lot of families do forget that college applications cost money. And waivers aren't necessarily given for middle class families a lot of times. So that's something that I pretty much prepare my families for that. And then in reference to like the holistic approach, what I like to do starting, if I can start in middle school, I can, but brand new freshmen, I want to have a conversation with the family about what your child is tending to do. Like, are they community college bound? Are they career bound? Are they military bound? Are they 4-year college bound? And if they are 4-year college bound, are they Ivy League bound, or are they looking to stay locally? And based upon the answers that they give on those questions, especially for the college one, for my particular district, my district pays beginning the summer of 9th grade for students to take classes at the community college for free. So I will go over that process of how to get that started and map out for the next 4 years, what is your plan? Do you want to finish high school with an AA degree? Because we also have what's called dual credit, where you could get college courses and high school courses counted towards graduation at the same time. So that way, when you graduate, you're looking at 2 years at a 4-year university instead of the entire 4. Or you can maximize if you want to get dual a bachelor's and master's degree. What does that look like? If you want to stay in state, here are the articulation programs that are per university, per your program. And then where it branches off is right now in education, especially in my district, the access to advanced placement courses versus dual college courses is a big battle. And it's a big battle because AP is College Board. College Board is like the big dog of everything college related, and they make a lot of money. Personally, I do not think they fully benefit our students of color necessarily, because the tests are biased, in my opinion. However, they are what are needed to get into the Ivies. So we have a conversation also in 9th grade. If you are looking at the Ivies, which ones are you looking at? And which AP tests are you looking to take? Are you taking it based on your strengths, or are you taking it because you heard all the Ivy League schools want to see APs? Now, there is a shift going on because there has been more acceptance of the dual credit community college courses, that some of the Ivies are lessening the intensity of making students take AP.
Got it.
But that's something, again, I would research with each individual family for each individual student. So definitely, I also like to throw in, because my background is school counseling, the mental health aspect of it. Is it worth stressing yourself out over taking an exam to get college credit where you can just get the college experience and still get college credit?
All right. So I gotta go to a break. I appreciate it. How do people connect with the Collegiate Hustle?
So everyone can contact me at educationhustler@gmail.com or follow me on Instagram at the Collegiate Hustle LLC.
All right. We appreciate it, Bridget. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Folks, I'll be right back on Roland Martin Unfiltered.
On the next Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, have you ever had that $1 million idea and wondered how you could make it a reality? On the next Get Wealthy, you're going to meet Liska Askalise, the inventress, someone who made her own idea a reality and now is showing others how they can do it too.
Positive, focusing in on the thing that you want to do, writing it down, and not speaking to naysayers or anybody about your product until you've taken some steps to at least execute.
Liska Ask Elise on the next Get Wealthy, right here, only on Black Star Network.
On the next A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie. It's spring, hallelujah. But hold on, it's not all fun and games. With the sun and the warmth comes the need to clean, the clutter, mentally, physically, emotionally, socially. All of those things need to happen. Getting rid of the clutter and clearing the cobwebs in our head and in our home. That's next on A Balanced Life on Black Star Network.
Hi, this is Cheryl Lee Ralph.
Hello, everyone. It's Kiara Sheard.
Hey, I'm Taj.
I'm Coco.
And I'm Lily.
And we're SWV.
What's up, y'all? It's Ryan Destiny, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, memo to all white people. Do me a favor. Don't spit on no black woman or hashtag Team Whip That Ass is gonna show up. Watch this.
I had to beat a Karen ass cause she spit on me and told me I don't belong here. And it's my birthday today. Happy birthday to me.
I'm not allowed to eat here. Don't. I'm checking out. I'm gonna slap her ass. Yeah, I'm get out of here. Ma'am. I don't care. You can't put her out of here. Walk. Oh, bitch! I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Bitch! What's wrong with you, girl? Sorry. No, fuck you. Spit on me again, bitch. Stupid asshole. Okay, I'm sorry. My ass out here, fucking.
I don't normally like to show fight videos on the show because I'm not one to promote violence. But run that back.
I had to beat a Karen ass cause she spit on me and told me I don't belong here. And it's my birthday today. Happy birthday to me.
I'm not allowed to eat here. Don't. I'm checking out. I'm gonna slap her ass. Yeah, I'm get out of here. Ma'am. I don't care. You can't put her out of here. Walk. Oh, bitch! I'm sorry. Bitch! What's wrong with you, girl? Sorry. No, fuck you. Sorry. Spit on me again, bitch. Stupid asshole. Okay, I'm sorry. My ass out here, fucking.
So I think it was about 9 seconds between I don't care and I'm sorry. Michael, again, hey, I'm just, see, you can't say I don't care if you don't care what's about to happen to your ass when you spit on his sister.
Roland, so I watched this earlier today preparing for today's show. Okay, so a few things here. Let me unpack this. First of all, this white woman thought that white supremacy was her superpower. That's what it was. She thought white supremacy was a force field around her, and she thought nothing could touch her. She was untouchable. And this is a public service announcement to some white people. Not all white people think like this, but the ones that do. If you're gonna talk smack to black people, you need to be able to know how to fight. See, this is somebody that didn't know how to fight and she got her ass whooped. That's what happened.
No, Mike, no. This sister got skills. Whooped her ass while still holding the phone.
And she was narrating what was happening too. She whooped her. She was still holding the phone and narrating.
She gave us in the midst of ass whooping commentary.
Right.
And then Kelly gave us post analysis after the ass whooping.
I mean, I hope she had the best birthday of her life after that. I hope all her dreams came true. She made a wish. I hope it was granted tenfold, because what you're not going to do is spit on me or assault me in any way, much less on my birthday. And forgive my French, but if you fuck around, you're going to find out. And you don't have to do a whole lot of fucking around in order to find out. It can be exponential. It's not a proportionate equation. And this particular woman just did one thing and got her ass beat. Like, I'm here for it. What's her Cash App?
Matt?
Dear Greg Abbott, my client needs to be pardoned because she got assaulted by a white lady spitting on her. That's all I'm going to say. Look, that part. I mean, right? This is, I don't know if it's truly self-defense every day of the week, but she got what she was looking for. And you notice that she jumped to the most vitriolic thing you can do, which is spit on somebody. Not just putting your hands on somebody, demeaning them, right? By, you're not acquiescing to what I want, so I'm going to spit on you. And then she got whomped. And that's what should have happened. So I'm glad the sister defended herself, although I wouldn't necessarily say you should disseminate yourself whipping somebody's tail. I don't know that that's always the best course of action.
You know,
it's so satisfying to watch.
I mean, you know, I know it's Friday.
It's so satisfying.
I mean, it's Friday. We run that back.
Thank you.
I'll rep pro bono representation.
Run that back before we go. One more time. Let's go.
I had to beat a Karen ass because she spit on me and told me I don't belong here. And it's my birthday today. Happy birthday to me.
I'm not allowed to eat here. Don't. I'm checking out. I'm gonna slap her ass. Yeah, I'm get out of here. Ma'am. I don't care. You can't put her out of here. Walk. Oh, bitch. I'm sorry. Bitch. What's wrong with you, girl? Sorry. No, fuck you. Sorry. Spit on me again, bitch. Stupid asshole. Okay, I'm sorry. My ass out of here, fine. Fucking.
You know what? As she was beating her, I thought I was listening to a James Brown song, because she was beating her in rhythm. It was like, I'm just saying.
The white woman, it appeared like she didn't have shoes on.
She beat her ass in rhythm.
No, she had like on.
She whooped her ass in rhythm.
Little socks.
Make it funky now. Make it funky now. All right, we got to go. Matt and Kelly, I appreciate it. Tomorrow's Jackie Robinson Day, Major League Baseball. That's why I'm repping the Dodgers 42. I only wear non-Astros gear on today. Shout out to the great Jackie Robinson. I will see y'all Monday right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. All my white people, don't spit on nobody black holding the phone, because they might whip your ass in rhythm. Holla!
Pearson.